Edward Snowden, najpoznatiji bivši operativac CIA u velikom skandalu iz 2013. godine, otkrio je kako brojne velike svjetske internetske kompanije ne samo da posjeduju naše privatne podatke, nego su ih spremne ustupiti onima koji za njih dobro plate. Svaki put kad se spojimo na internet, gomilu svojih privatnih i nama bitnih i važnih podataka na taj način dajemo na raspolaganje i Googleu, i Yahoo, i Facebooku i mnogim drugima. I ono što je najinteresantnije, čini se da većinu nas to uopće ne zabrinjava. I sad se naravno pitate kakve to veze ima sa suvremenom umjetnošću. Upravo je aktualni trenutak, doba velikih baza podataka, doba globalne umrženosti, doba u kojem nema tajni bila tema ovogodišnjeg transmedijala u Berlinu otprilike 1000 km u ovom pravcu. I ova velika svjetska kulturna prijestolnica ugostila je i našu ekipu, tako da ćemo u sljedećih 30 minuta u ovom izvanrednom transferu svi zajedno biti uz transmedijale pod zajedničkim nazivnikom Capture All. Što pomislite kada kažemo Berlin? Berlinski zid, simbol razdvajanja i ponovnog spajanja istoka i zapada. Velebna arhitektura dostojna glavnog grada. Bogati klupski život. Čovječuljak sa šeširom na semaforima. Za Berlin možemo bez pretjerivanja reći da je europska prijestolnica umjetnosti i kulture, s obzirom da je u ovom gradu smješteno 138 muzeja i 400 galerija. I poneki festival. Jedan od njih je i Transmedijale, istovremeno festival i projekt koji traje čitavu godinu i koji pokušava oblikovati i njegovati nove veze između umjetnosti, kulture i tehnologije. Cilj tog festivala je razvijati kritičko razumijevanje suvremene kulture i društvenih zbivanja pod utjecajem novih tehnologija, a njegova povijest seže 28 godina unazad. Tema ovogodišnjeg izdanja festivala je Capture All, uhvati sve, a tiče se trenda mjerenja svega i goleme količine dostupnih podataka.
We are all data slaves. I don't know about you, but I've had enough of being exploited.
We take in this festival the goal of different agencies like the NSA or the GCHQ in the UK to basically collect all information, all data that is out there and store it and analyze it for, of course, different kinds of security for intelligence work, for example. But that is a metaphor, or not a metaphor, but actually a symptom for how a lot of things are processed and functioning today in society. In the economy, of course, in high-frequency trading, but also more and more in people's everyday lives, how we live our working lives and spend our leisure time, tracking ourselves, contributing data, trying to also, of course, empower ourselves to become perhaps better at work or to have a more control of our free time.
What's my solution? Extreme capitalism.
Unutar mračnog i zlogukog postava glavne izložbe radovi su tematski birani, a tiču se života, igre i rada u doba velikih podataka i algoritama.
The setup it's done by the Berlin architecture agency Raumlabor, and it's somehow a metaphor about the current situation we are in. We are in a way captured, but then also we are watching and being watched, and we are observing and being observed. And in this process, there is there's somehow a loop, and so this becomes a little bit like a normalization, a big normalization, that everyone looks on everybody and controls each other. And this is one of the topics, these transparent layers here in the exhibition situation, and we designed it in a parcours that you have to find your way through the exhibition.
Kustosi su se susretali tijekom festivala s optužbama da je čitava ideja ovogodišnjeg festivala paranoidna. Činjenica da su države u poziciji moći, u stanju doći do naših podataka ili da korporacije prate ukus pojedinaca koji se iskazuje kroz socijalne mreže, ne znači nužno da ih mi kao pojedinci zanimamo.
This leads to the idea that everyone should give the data for the better of the society. But in the end, we give the data voluntarily to take care of others, but then we lose the control about the data, and others exploit them and do profit from them and take their own profit and then use the data against us.
Izložba Fix That For You zamišlja paralelnu izložbu Transmedijalu i predstavlja 14 dijela koja ne postoje u fizičkom svijetu. Radovi su algoritamski proračunati na osnovu ranijih izložbi unutar ovog festivala, a audio vodiči vode posjetitelje po imaginarnom postavu. U Lundovom algoritamskom umjetničkom svijetu ne postoji konsenzus što je dobro umjetničko djelo, a što ne.
All the works are generated by an algorithm that I wrote 2 years ago, which takes into account the huge database of the art world that I created, with the initial purpose of kind of figuring out how the art world system operates to know how to navigate it for more optimal performance. And we're trying to kind of figure out what is art and how does art function. If there's a formula for determining what's good and bad art, if anyone knows what's what really. So in some ways, like using this database, I wrote an algorithm that would go through many different steps of creating artwork. In the end, it supplies me with a title, a description, materials, and instructions on how to put it together. So this was first realized in a show in Rotterdam 2 years ago called The Fear of Missing Out, for kind of, it's the idea that you could, through computational logic, be one step ahead of everyone, so you would never be scared of missing out of what's going on.
S vodećim zemljama koje pumpaju industrijske vojne budžete u kibervojnike, oružja i rat, male su šanse da se internet doista neće pretvoriti u bojno polje. Koristeći poznatu igru Civilizacija 3, novosadska Eastwood grupa stvara svoju Civilizaciju 6, vrijeme umijeća ratovanja.
Civilizacija 6 je posljednja u našem nizu modifikacije originalne Civilizacije 3, treća, dakle, prvo je bila Civilizacija 4, koja je bazirana na engineu Civilizacije 3 originalne. I vezu sa temom festivala je u tome da se u ovoj posljednjoj verziji, znači posljednjoj igri koju smo radili, smo se fokusirali na cyber rat i zapravo algoritamske elemente u cyber ratovanju danas u svetu. A cilj igre je da se pobedi globalno, a razviješ agenciju, da li američku NSA ili tajnu agenciju 8200 izraelsku Mossadovu ili također hakersku grupu kinesku. Dakle, uglavnom su tu prisutni su nacionalne agencije, kao što sam rekao ove, plus još Iran i Nemačka je u pitanju, a i neke privatne kompanije koje se bave proizvodnjom i distribucijom da li nekih softvera za nadgledanje ili samih virusa i algoritama koji ne samo da sprovode nadgledanje na internetu, nego nekada zapravo uzrokuju i fizička oštećenja u infrastrukturi kao što je čuveni Stuxnet, na primjer.
Bodyscan koristi aplikaciju za iPhone koja na osnovu zadanih slika pronalazi odgovarajuće slike na internetu. Umjetnica je fotografirala dijelove vlastitog tijela i dobila začuđujuć komentar korporativnog društva i izgubljenosti subjekta u moru podataka.
It's almost imitating a body scan. You know, if you've ever done like a body scan meditation, it moves through different parts of your body and it says, now feel your leg, now feel this. But instead of it just being your body, you know, how it would feel, it's kind of almost asking you to feel this like other mediated part, you know, this online version, or this kind of technologically mediated part of your body being online somewhere. And also it's kind of thinking about that idea of like, almost when you wake up out of sleep and then you check Twitter straight away, or you check your phone straight away, and it's somehow the two get mixed up, so it's like it's half the dream and half something you just read, and it all gets mixed up and you can't remember, you know, is that my experience or is that somebody else's experience? You know, is that my foot or is it just a foot, which I can find online? And that's kind of something I'm interested in, of like, you know, how do we know what our experience is when we've got so much stuff around us and on us all the time? Where do we know where like my experience ends and yours begins, or my experience ends and an advert begins?
Za razliku od glavnog izložbenog postava i njegova zatvorskog postava, unutar programa u foajeu borave razni kreativci, aktivisti i umjetnici koji se dovijaju načinima suprotstavljanju sustavu koji nas nadzire i prati.
I am positive that if we understand how systems work, things will change. And this is what we're trying to do in the foyer program. I think that a lot of us don't have the chance to realize how the networks work and how the algorithms work. And when these elements are exposed, then perhaps people think about how they expose their data and how they use the social media today, and why they perhaps should not just use emails like the Gmail that we all use or the Hotmail and so on.
Telekomunisten je berlinski kolektiv čiji rad istražuje političku ekonomiju u sprezi s komunikacijskim tehnologijama. Nekompatibilnost kapitalizma sa umrežavanjem i kulturom, borba protiv centralizacije i zatvaranja i stvaranje alternativne ekonomske baze za slobodno društvo glavne su teme njihova rada.
DeadSwap is a clandestine offline sharing system. That means that this also talks about the fact that a lot of information is disappearing from the web and we can't rely on the internet to store all this information. So the offline sharing systems can be used for that, or for information that you don't want to have observed on the net. Here people are hiding USB sticks around the space. You join the network, this clandestine network, by sending a text message to a telephone number, at which point you are waiting for instructions. Once you get the instructions, you are helped to discover the USB stick, and you can check what's on the USB stick, you take information off of it, add new information on it, and then you're required to hide it again, and then help the next person find the USB stick. And that goes in a cycle until everybody has shared the information that's on the stick. There's 10 sticks hidden here at Transmediale, and we're constantly busy trying to help people.
Welcome, candidate, to your training session. This short film will help familiarize you with a technique you will need to participate in the trusted network.
The main message that Telekommunisten tries to get across is that the fight for free and open communication systems, the fight for communication systems that are safe and private, secure, is actually the same fight as the fight for education, for healthcare, for childcare, and for other public goods in society, and said that the only way that we're going to achieve these things is not through like voluntarist means of interesting little projects. It's not going to be through any brand new business models. It's going to be by way of social struggle and social organization. So we see our role very much as to move the hacker community and encourage the hacker community to become more embedded in social movements broadly.
Alternativu dijeljenja podataka informacija nudi radionica Rising. Sudionici su izrađivali vlastite postere i bedževe s QR kodom kako bi pomoću njih dijelili podatke sa svojih pametnih telefona, tableta ili osobnih računala.
In this case, we're trying to liberate the otherwise personal files that people keep on their phones in a public sense, in a public place. So yes, I guess that's to try and do that without anxiety, to try and introduce some freedom back into the idea of the use of the phone and the local network, the independent network, even an offline network, one that's not connected to the internet per se, but that is just serving a local purpose. And to some extent, community wireless networks all around the world offer that local resource without necessarily the need for a conventional commercial internet connection being available.
Kolektiv društvenih inovatora iz Atene, koji se opisuje kao društvena klinika budućnosti, zove se Unmonastery, što u prijevodu znači nesamostan. Članovi kolektiva po analogiji su neredovnici, ili na engleskom unmonks.
Dobrodošli u Unmonastery. Unmonastery is a social clinic for the future. It takes a number of systemic crises, largely operating within Europe, which are high levels of youth unemployment, high numbers of unoccupied housing and commercial property, and the rollback of state services from austerity politics. Combines all these systemic problems into a hyper massive super mega problem, and tries to approach it by creating a physical space called an monastery within a community that provides free accommodation and subsistence for a group of people who are perhaps highly skilled or highly educated to work on developing new social services for. Each element of the BIOS is a tool unto itself, and it's composed of five parts. There's a deck of cards which is developed with a company called MethodKit and a designer called Ola Muller that acts as a kind of set of prompts or a series of prompts that allow you to work through questions, challenges or perspectives on the monastery. There's a process map or a reference map which guides you through the possible processes that you might engage in establishing a monastery, and also has an online component. There's the Book of Greater and Lesser Omissions, which is an ongoing documentation of the law of the monastery. There's also the Stakeholders Handbook, which gives some guide to stakeholders who may be interested in engaging with a monastery project and helps them identify their roles and understand their position and what they can and cannot do. And lastly, there is the game, which tries to package or repurpose all of these elements into a kind of hyper tool that allows you to prototype at speed and low risk on monasteries within your kind of community.
A monastery are doing a series of workshops over the days here between three spaces. We've kind of simulated our monastery living in an apartment about 20 minutes away, and we have workshops going on here in the hub, and also we have an offline network where you can download all this material and learn how to set up your own monastery. So we could go over to the hub now and see what's going on there.
My project was about enclosures, toxic commons. Basically, it deals with the theme that contamination and radiation is spreading throughout the world so rapidly that it's the safe spaces that we have to live in that are free of contamination are shrinking every day. That's just a very basic overview. And then I met James, and he was doing something kind of related to that, but more in a mythological sense about contamination. Elefsina, which is an ancient city of ritual, and now it's an industrial city.
We boiled potatoes. We had a little picnic, sort of a roadside picnic with a lot of debris, but also vegetation, seeds, coins, lots of words people shared, and they made words with their own means, using seeds, using material. And so they brought all these objects from Elefsina, Elefsis in Greece, the ancient city and the contemporary city, inside the archaeological space, little weed or things that tourists drop sometimes. All this material was gathered here. And we did the same collectively here in Berlin with this temple.
People in the monastery are all different people. There's hackers, writers, artists, architects, designers, journalists, theatrical people, many different professions. And it's quite interesting what you get when you mix all these people together.
Io ho una vaga idea di quello che sia.
Ove godine gostujuća izložba došla iz Liverpoola i pripremila je organizacija FACT, Foundation for Art and Creative Technology. Naziv izložbe je Time in Motion.
Inspired by this notion of the time and motion study, which is a specific methodology was used in the early industrial workplaces or in the tailorists' workplaces to measure workers' use of time and also the movements that they used in their work, to break it into small units that could then be changed in order to optimize and make the worker use the time better and the physical resources of the worker better. And this is a fitting metaphor for the whole exhibition, because many of the artists have kind of done their own time and motion studies. And all of the works kind of reflect on this movement from art to life and life into art, and how work time, leisure time and rest, recreation time has been transformed through technology, and how it is also impacted today by digital technology, but also how it differs in different parts of the world depending on different social and economical and political systems. And this is what the artists are working on, or actually working on here in this exhibition.
Zvijezda međunarodne performerske scene, tajvanski umjetnik Tije Ching-sjeh, poznat po svojim iscrpljujućim jednogodišnjim performansima, izložio je rad Time Clock. U svom performansu, tijekom godine dana, umjetnik je svakih sat vremena pritiskao sat i to fotografski dokumentirao. Rezultat je 6-minutni video koji evidentira vrijeme kroz promjene u izgledu umjetnika. 8 sati rada, 8 sati rekreacije, 8 sati odmora. Slogan je koji nas dočekuje na tapiseriji unutar izložbe. Dijelo je to londonskog video umjetnika i entuzijastičnog pletača koji je održao i radionicu koja fuzionira digitalno i analogno.
I became very interested in knitting. I was doing a project making a film about a knitting group in Manchester, and I'd never seen a knitting machine before, and I was really taken by the sort of parallels between the textiles and the process of designing for the knitting machine, but also how that relates to digital processes. So essentially, this is a punch card, and you kind of have a very limited, let's say, resolution, but you can kind of equate pixels to stitches. In fact, no matter what your kind of discipline in terms of working with digital media, you'll probably be able to sort of draw a parallel with the design of textiles. So my initial thoughts were to think, well, is this in some way like a roll of film? You know, can I make a knitted animation? And then I started to think of the punch card, the term punch card relating to this idea of clocking on and clocking off, and the punch card not only being a mechanism to design textiles, but also being a way to control workers.
Jedan od zanimljivijih projekata na Transmedijalu koji je bio uključen u izložbu Time in Motion, ali također predstavljan van festivala na zasebnoj izložbi, je rad dvojica Tur van der Balen i Revital Cohen. Na njihovoj izložbi vidjeli smo golubove koji uz pomoć određene bakterije umjesto izmeta proizvode sapun, izvedbu procesa rada u kineskoj tvornici, te konačno albino ribicu koja nema reproduktivne organe, već se proizvodi strojno.
We wanted to bring up the issue whether with all this talk in new media, which is basically concerned still with digital media, whether the talk about machinic life is not having a flip side, that is that of living machines. In other words, in how far we need to take into account in media theory and also in media arts today that there is not only the animation of the technological, but also the technologization of the already animated. And in how far definitions of media that still stem from the area of electronics and physics have to move forwards towards biological definitions as well, so to create a link.
Pitanja automatizacije, standardizacije i hijerarhizacije važna su u svim procesima vezanim uz digitalnu i kiberkulturu, ali punu važnost dobivaju tek kad se vežu uz biotehnološke primjene, jer se tad tiču biostrojeva kakvi smo i mi sami.
Track sleep, track steps, track habits, track life, tricks of the mind.
3 termina oko kojih je osmišljena konferencija zajednički formiraju sve ubrzanije širenje kapitalizma.
Our conference is built around the 3 main streams, work, play and life. The reason that we decided to propose these streams is that these 3 words, these 3 notions are today interwoven. They somehow are developed and constantly transform, but at the same time, they all merge with one another. So for instance, when we talk about work, it's very often playful work, because there are playful mechanisms that invite us to work more. When we talk about play, it's often productive play. And for instance, when we are participating in social media platforms, the like button or the share button, the idea that all the time we need to be a bit competitive and check how well the others are doing is a form of productivity, because the networks are extracting value from it. And then life is in a way commodified, since everything we are doing is like also at the same time branding ourselves.
Igra, koja je posvećen poseban panel na konferenciji pod nazivom All Play, No Work, u suvremenom društvu funkcionira drugačije nego nekad, kad je postojala stroga podjela između rada i slobodnog vremena. Danas gledamo hibridne forme rada i igre, poput Facebooka, koji je privlačan jer je u liminalnom polju između realnosti i igre, te nam omogućuje kreiranje osobe kakvom bismo željeli biti.
When talking about the internet, it's fascinating because, you know, in the past, in the 90s, one saw, you know, this online culture as, you know, basically this gigantic field of play. And in the new millennium, we have actually been confronted with the fact that it's not all play. There's a very serious aspect of it, and there are certain, you know, agents and institutions that are trying to identify us, you know, this whole thrust for putting your real ID online, you know, whether in World of Warcraft or Facebook, you know, not being able to do what you just said, you know, put up false name, false birthday, false gender, you know, and that's what people do when they're online, and that's the fun part about it. And now, you know, we have something, and this is the theme of the conference, you know, that this paradigm of capture all, you know, where there are actually agencies like the NSA out there who are really trying to collect information on everyone on the planet. You know, they want to have a file for everyone on the planet. This program that the Pentagon was following a couple years ago went under the label Total Information Awareness, and that's really interesting. In identifying you as a user, identifying your computer, and getting all this data together. So these are two competing paradigms, and I don't think the play dimension of online digital culture is gone, but it's lost its innocence.
Filmski video program Transmedijala rasvjetljuje temu festivala Capture All iz 4 perspektive. Optimizacija vlastitog tijela i komunikacija, internet kao informacijski stroj za mapiranje svega, globalni trenutak straha nasuprot ideologiji sreće, te povećanje elektronske manipulacije. Program je predstavio 44 dijela od 1937. do danas.
Film program starts with the idea of the camera, because initially there was the idea of the camera that captures all. Giga Vertov wrote about it already in 1923. I am the mechanical eye that sees everything that the human cannot see. But in our times, the image as such is for the algorithms worthless. It has to be transferred into data, so it has to be scanned. And this is, for example, one string in the program. We are dealing with the scanning of the image, with the transfer of the image into data. A second string is this body optimization. So this is something which is also very new, that we have to optimize our body to be fit, to be healthy, to be happier, and also to work better. This is the basic idea behind it.
Actually, it's a bit dangerous filming with these people. Yeah, what the fuck? They know. Yeah.
Svake godine Transmedijale predstavlja niz zvučnih performansa s mnogim internacionalnim umjetnicima. Ovogodišnji program fokusirao se na tradiciju takozvanog živog kina, live cinema, i intermedijske radove koji bježe od jednostavne kategorizacije. Program okuplja kako one umjetnike koji se bave dizajnom novih instrumenata i alata, tako i one koji se bave razvijanjem struktura, algoritama i ambijenata. Ove godine u suradnji sa CTM-om ugostili su premijeru performansa pod nazivom Double Vision. Radi se o suradnji između Atom TM, nama poznatije kao Senjor Coconut, i australskog medijskog umjetnika Robina Foxa. Oni su pripremili snažni trodimenzionalni video, vizualni napad na osjetila. Fox je suradnji doprinio sa svojim laserskim šovom, a Uwe Schmidt, aka Atom TM, zabavnom dekonstrukcijom popa.
Mr. Fox will make you see what's the look of RGB.
Transmedijale, Capture All, nudi čitav dijapazon pitanja vezanih uz status naših digitalnih tragova. Iako ovaj festival nije dao odgovor na pitanje sigurnosti pojedinaca na internetu i zaštite podataka objavljenih unutar Facebooka, Googlea, Yahoo-a, zasigurno je uspješno usmjerio pozornost na to. Na kreativan i uzbudljiv način Transmedijale pokazuju da je ovo tek početak doba u kojem su sve informacije o svima online. Doba velikih podataka čine privatne detektive nepotrebnima. Dovoljno je samo upotrijebiti internet. I evo nas ponovno iz Berlina nazad u Hrvatskoj. Nadam se da ste zaista capturirali sve. Vidimo se ponovno za tjedan dana. Pozdrav!